U.S. presidential elections are fast approaching, and things are heating up big time, especially around the Second Amendment. One of the two remaining candidates is hell-bent on coming down hard on our right to keep and bear arms, threatening to hand out executive orders as if they were parking tickets.
Have unpaid parking ticket.
These executive orders are designed to lead to mandatory buybacks, confiscation, and strict regulation of certain firearms, which, let's face it, is just about all of them eventually.
They would never do that. Never.
Historically, there are many examples, some of which I'll share with you shortly, of what confiscation looked like and the consequences that ensued. And it ain't pretty, I promise you that.
Should I be worried?
I sure would be if I were you.
But is it possible in the US of A? From 1911 to 1917, the Ottoman Empire confiscated every gun from its Armenian citizens and went on to slaughter 1.5 million of them. Remember good old Joseph Stalin, the Russian dictator? He was a man of his word. He said, if the opposition disarms, well and good. If it refuses to disarm, we shall disarm it ourselves. Who do you think he referred to as the opposition?
Don't tell me. Let me guess.
The citizens, of course. He went on a nationwide gun confiscation spree and eliminated millions from the opposition. How about the Chinese Revolution led by Chairman Mao, who said every communist must grasp the truth. Political power grows out of the barrel of a gun. His political power grew all right, as he killed 65 million of his own during his reign. Next, of course, is none other than Adolf Hitler, who famously said, the most foolish mistake we could possibly make would be to allow the subjugated races to possess arms. To the Nazi Party, that meant Jews, Gypsies, gays, and anyone who was not considered Aryan. And so, in 1938, the German Weapons Act stripped gun rights from these groups and went on to slaughter 13 million of them, 6 million of which were Jews. And lastly, I'll mention 1956 Cambodia under Mr. Pol Pot, who went on to disarm the entire population and slaughtered approximately 1 million of its citizens in what has become known as the killing fields. So history is pretty clear on what confiscation leads to.
He who doesn't understand history is doomed to repeat it.
But what about more recent times, like 2020 Canada? Shortly after a mass shooting in Nova Scotia that claimed 22 victims, Prime Minister Trudeau, within 48 hours and without a vote or consensus, implemented an assault weapons ban and a mandatory buyback. It started with AR-AK-style rifles and later to semi-automatic pistols.
Effective immediately. It is no longer permitted to buy, sell, transport, import, or use military-grade assault weapons in this country.
He hired a whole slew of agents to come up with a plan to implement his decree. Well, here we are, 4 years later, and not a single firearm has been confiscated.
Why the hell not?
Why? Because once they figured out that it would cost the Canadian government about $6 billion to implement this brilliant plan, they realized that it might require a bit more thought. Now, Canada doesn't have near as many guns as the US, so imagine what a strategy like that cost to implement in the US of A.
How much do you think it would cost?
Hundreds of billions. And that's if there was no resistance from the citizenry. We know there is no shortage of anti-Second Amendment politicians who will continue to relentlessly push for just such a plan. For example, California Representative Eric Swalwell, who said, if Americans fight against the gun confiscation, the feds can nuke them. And Beto O'Rourke of Texas, who said,
hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47.
And many more like them. Thankfully, our forefathers had the foresight that this day will come and our rights will be under threat. Not just the Second. However, I wholeheartedly believe that the Second Amendment is what stands in the way and thus the most important amendment we have.
Amen to that, brother.
So, between the Second Amendment being an inalienable right that cannot be undone by executive orders, the exorbitant cost and manpower it would require, the lack of cooperation from the vast majority of gun owners and local law enforcement, just to name a few reasons, I don't see gun confiscation as a possibility in the U.S.
Oh, well, that's a relief.
In fact, I will go as far as to say it will lead to civil war. However, The relentless pursuit of such a quest by the anti-Second Amendment movement will not stop, so taking our rights for granted is not an option. We must continue to speak up and support organizations like the NRA, Gun Owners of America, Firearm Policy Coalition, and others like them who fight every day in the courts to uphold and preserve our right to keep and bear arms. So to any candidate and its supporters threatening to chip away at the Second Amendment, I say, good luck, but you will never have my vote. If you enjoyed this video, please smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and watch the next video right here. Train hard, often, and safely, and I'll see you at the range.